I'm Joan Rizza. I was born and raised in Boston. I was married back in 1962. I moved to Florida back in 2003, September 2003. I remember my first communion, my first reconciliation, my confirmation. I was thinking, when did I actually encounter God in my life? Because I was baptized Catholic, I'll be buried as a Catholic. But in between, I think I found God, and only in hindsight, thinking about it, was when I was training for my profession, which is a nurse. I had gone to a Catholic high school, all girl, and when it came time for us to choose where we were going to go to school, we had to have our records transferred. My homeroom teacher told me absolutely not, because I had chosen Boston City Hospital, which was a secular hospital. She made such an issue of it that I had to see my confessor and speak to my confessor before she would sign off on these, because if I was coming from a Catholic high school, I was going to go to a Catholic nursing school. And the strange part of it is, when you talk about when did you find God, I went to Boston City Hospital, but I think of all the people that I cared for there. I mean, City Hospital was in the dregs of Boston. I mean, truly. I mean, nobody would go down there if they didn't have to. You know, we had everything that you would expect. You know, we had alcoholics, we had indigents, you know, we had women that were walking the streets. I mean, we had everything. And nobody was treated any differently when they were brought in than if it was you or it was me, you know. And we never thought of it that way, because the surprising part of it is, although it was a city hospital, it was very Catholic, because we had the Cathedral of the Holy Cross right next door and the Immaculate Conception across the street. And we had a 24-hour priest. So there was always that presence of God there. I mean, a simple thing like somebody going to the operating room. Back in those days, you had a check-off list. One of them actually stated the patient's religion. And if the patient was Catholic, you had to be absolutely certain that patient had seen the priest before they went to the operating room. If they wanted to refuse, fine, but that was part of your responsibility to make sure that person had seen a priest. You know, so there was just a very, very Catholic atmosphere there. And I never gave it any thought till now that this is where I encountered God in these people. Everybody says, I don't have feelings one way or the other about a certain person, ethnicity, race, whatever, religion. But I don't. I don't, because I spent 3 solid years, you know, in this environment. And it was just, they were people, you know, they were people. And now that you asked me, that I think is where I actually made my connection with God. Then I got involved with the adoration first. And in order for me to participate in taking the Blessed Sacrament, you know, to the chapel, I had to be a minister of communion. And then from there, became an extraordinary minister to communion, and then became a minister to the sick. And that's another thing, that the ministry to the sick, I just loved it. I just loved it. The people that you would see, sometimes you were the only person they were seeing from week to week. When we come in those doors, a lot of times, I'm the first person they've seen since she saw me last week, or he saw me last week. You know, we just would do our little socialization, and sometimes it'd be a long socialization, and then we'd pause for a moment and kind of get ourselves back, why I am here to bring you the Eucharist, you know. Unfortunately, I've had to stop doing a lot of things, you know, which is a little heartbreaking, you know. But yeah, I've set a time, some part of the day, and that's when I do my prayer life. You know, if you can dedicate an hour, and you wouldn't give that hour up for anything, I golf every Tuesday and Thursday. I go to the library every Wednesday at such and such a time, and that's what I'm going to do. Well, why can't you say, I'm sitting down before the Blessed Sacrament between 3 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and nothing's going to keep me from doing that. I don't want to commit myself. Well, you commit yourself to these other things, and you don't think twice about it. And you wouldn't be doing these other things if it hadn't been for Jesus, So maybe you should say thank you. When you go to adoration and you're sitting right across from him, and you have to think of it that way. You're not sitting across from the monstrance. You're not sitting across from the Luna. You're sitting across from Jesus, and how can you not be overwhelmed by that? He is right there. That's kind of the way I look at it. He was my salvation when he gave himself on the cross. He saved us all. That's who Jesus is. But also Jesus is what I was talking about before when I said I was in nursing school. The people, his love for people. It didn't matter who they were, what they were. In my mind's eye right now, I can just picture a picture of him, just sitting on a rock, with people all around him, and I think that's who Jesus is.